Hi, welcome to Stories of Art. My name is Karel Huidenkoper and today's topic is the griffin. A griffin, of course, a mythical creature that is a hybrid between a lion and an eagle, but it's much bigger. It's apparently bigger than a horse. And this is part of my series of stories of mythical creatures and what to do when you meet them. And my first and foremost tip about meeting a griffin is run away, because apparently these are very, very dangerous animals. Now, I'm going to show a number of these animals to you, and many of the sources, many of the pictures come from medieval books. They're kept in libraries and they have strange titles like the one up here. These are designations by libraries because these books don't have titles as you would expect them these days. They're handwritten books, unique ones, and so they just have a number in these libraries. But I'll display them anyway, so you can, if you want to, you can find them. But let me get out of the way and show you the stories of griffins. We know from griffins from various sources. Hesiod, one of the oldest Greek writers of whom we have any work left, he mentioned them, but only briefly. And much later, several centuries later, we learn a lot more about them, and mainly from Herodotus. He wrote about them, or he mentioned them a number of times, and from it we can discern a number of things about the griffin. One of the things he wrote about them is that they were constantly at war with the Arimaspians. I hope I pronounced that right. I've written it up there so you can see at least how it's spelled. And they were always fighting over gold, because that's one of the things about griffins, apparently, and according to Herodotus and all later authors, where you find griffins, you find gold. Pliny the Elder even said that the nests of griffins are filled with nuggets of gold. And he mentioned that it was strange that griffins could find gold in mountains and not in rivers. Apparently, they found gold mostly in rivers at the time. And apparently the Arimaspians tried to get hold of all this gold. Now, the Arimaspians themselves are a mythical people. They were tribes of humanoids with only one eye. They don't mention, by the way, if they had one eye because they fought with griffins. They lived in Scythian mountains. Now, a number of these locations that are often mentioned in Greek literature simply mean very, very far away. They often talk about Ethiopia or about India as lands that are very, very far. But for griffins, they usually talk about the mountains in eastern Persia. And the Persian Empire was enormous, so that could be an enormous area where these griffins lived, according to Greek writers, in mountains in parts of Afghanistan and Turkmenistan, in Iran. They could have meant any of those places, or all of them. And to us, it's interesting to see that the images you find of griffins increase the farther east you go within the Persian Empire. But not that many stories about them. For that we depend on Greek writers and later on Roman writers. And they tell us that griffins are big, much bigger than either a lion or an eagle. They're, as I said, bigger than a horse. And they're very dangerous. They attack people whenever they see them because they hoard and protect gold. One of the strange things is that they, mentioned by Pliny the Elder mostly, is that they're not afraid of anything. You can't scare them off. And perhaps that sort of bravery is what made them so popular for heraldry, because of course you find them in heraldry all the time. And as I mentioned before, they hate people, but, and this is what Pliny tells us and may be useful to you, they hate horses even more than people. And one of the things that all of these writers always claim is that they live near gold. They live in mountains, but mountains situated within deserts, and in these mountains you can find lots of gold and gemstones. So that is a reason to go into the same areas. Now, those are the ancient writers, but in medieval times, these ancient writers were still read and often taken much more seriously than probably they were in the ancient world. Their writings were very often Christianized, and so the griffin was Christianized as well. Most of the medieval writers came to the conclusion that you could see Jesus Christ in the griffin. He symbolized Jesus Christ because, and this is always far-fetched sort of thing, but bear with me, and as Jesus is the king of the earth, he's also the king of heaven. And you can see that reflected in a griffin because he is a lion, the king of the animals of the earth, and he is an eagle, the king of the animals in the sky or the heavens. So that made him kind of Christian, which makes it weird that he killed so many people. Because of all the stories, of course, that didn't fit with him hating people. So instead, they made up the idea that it wasn't people that the griffins hate, it's their greed. So apparently, if you approach them without greed, you'll be fine. There's a specific writer, Jacob van Maerland. He added some new lore to it. He spoke of the gagates. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but gagates. This is how he spelled it. These are stones, gems, found only in the nest of a griffin. And these heal wounds, apparently. So that's rather nice. They have stones that heal wounds, which is something you're bound to need when you meet a griffin. He also claimed that the feathers of a griffin can heal blindness. Now, all of that sounds kind of nice to me. A much more friendly image than just than this vicious creature that tries to kill any human he finds and attacks horses. And actually, some of the ancient stories tell us that he not only could attack a horse, but then lift it up and bring it to his nest, probably to eat it, I suppose. But the animal that has a stone that heals wounds and its feathers can heal blindness is a much more friendly, much more kindly animal. But still not afraid of anything and very Christian, so it makes it great for heraldry. Now, there is a animal kind of like it that you may have heard of, and that's the hippogriff. And a hippogriff is a much, much newer invention. As far as I know, they didn't exist before the 14th century. But the hippogriff is a different type of hybrid animal of a griffin who paired up with a horse to make a horse griffin, which is what hippogriff basically means. Now, as I mentioned before, they hate horses even more than people, so that's a particularly strange thing to happen. The most famous, though, of all of these animals, I guess, would be Buckbeak, because it's the hippogriff that appears in the Harry Potter series. But as I said before, the hippogriffs are fairly new, and there's not that much lore about them. There's not that many stories about them, except actually for Harry Potter. Now, there's one particular griffin that I want to tell you the story about, and that's the Pisa Griffin. It is a large bronze griffin that was cast probably in the 11th century and was always part of the Cathedral of Pisa. When they built that cathedral, you know, the cathedral with the leaning tower and everything, but when they built it, they actually included a pillar over the apse, and that makes it one of the most important places of the architecture. And that pillar contained a griffin, and that griffin is a large bronze one. Today you can see it in the museum of the cathedral, because they removed it and a copy stands outside. And it's this large bronze griffin. The strange thing is that we don't know where they got it, and nobody knows. We simply collectively forgot. We have sort of a timeline of when it was acquired, because it was part of the building of the cathedral in Pisa. So it's 11th century, most likely. And it was always thought to be made in Pisa, which would sort of be reasonable, until it was taken down for restorations in 1828. Then, when they looked at it closely, it was discovered that it contains Arabic script. There are Arabic letters across the chest of the griffin, and it says something about eternal well-being for the owner of this griffin. And that surprised everybody, because they thought it was Pisan, and now you had Arabic script. And Arabic script, of course, means it was made by the Muslim people who lived all over the Mediterranean, all of North Africa, Spain, and of course the Middle East. And that was sort of hard to believe. They had always thought it was Pisan and made by Christians. But it makes sense, kind of, because the griffin was always, well, first Persian, and later on became part of lots of fairy tales within the Islamic world. It was a creature that was always sort of popular there. So to have a bronze griffin is not that strange. Actually, there are many more Islamic bronze griffins, but this is by far the biggest one. So nowadays we think it was cast probably in Andalus, so that's in Islamic Spain, and was stolen by the Pisans in one of their wars with the Muslims in Spain. So nowadays we know it's a trophy of war. It was simply something they stole and adapted into their own church, which, by the way, wasn't something odd. People did that all the time. So if you're going to visit Pisa, which you should do anyway, there's of course the tower, the Leaning Tower, there's the cathedral, there's the baptisterium, but there's also this museum of the cathedral, and that's one that most people skip. And in there you can find this griffin that you can study up close without any dangers of it attacking you, so benefits all around. Now, if you enjoyed this story, do me a favor, subscribe, give it a like, subscribe to my channel. Both would be good. You can even, once you hit that subscribe button, there appears this little bell next to it. You can press it as well. If you click that one, you will get notified anytime I post a new video, which would be convenient, wouldn't it? In any case, thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll see you again. Bye.